Hey, everybody, this is Jarrod, and I am excited to end our season of CX Disruptors with our fearless leader, Phil Heltewig.
Great to be here. Thanks, Jarrod.
Now, I don't want to give you an easy question, so we're going to jump right in to the first one. Given how quickly AI technology is changing, just say the speed at which we went from GPT 3.5 to 4, what do you think are the key factors that are going to determine a business's success in implementing and benefiting from AI in the future, given that if you plan for today, by tomorrow, it will already be different?
Yeah, that is a really good question. And I think this is a situation that many of our customers and many enterprises around the world find themselves in, because quite frankly, the speed of development, the speed of advancement in the field, especially in 2023, was just staggering, right? If you went on a holiday for 2 weeks, came back, you felt like, oh my God, I've been left behind, right? So much new stuff has come out just in those 2 weeks. And that's probably not really going to stop in the next couple of years. So what's my advice to a company that wants to explore this and does not want to fall behind? I guess it's you have to get started, and you have to get started now, right? You can implement valid ROI delivering solutions with AI technologies today. And yes, maybe while you're delivering or while you're developing or implementing the solutions, they are becoming superseded. But that doesn't really matter, because even the solutions, even if they're superseded, they can still deliver value, right? So you can develop something based on GPT 3.5 or GPT-4 or Anthropic today that is going to deliver value. It doesn't matter that GPT-5 might be coming out right afterwards, or even while you're developing it. That does not diminish the returns you can have with the current AI technology already. So essentially, my advice is get started, learn, right? There's a lot to learn. There's a lot to learn from an implementation perspective. There's a lot to learn from a regulatory perspective, compliance aspects, et cetera, et cetera. And enterprises usually don't move fast, right? So you have to really tick all these boxes one after another, learn, and then you're ready for the future when something new comes out.
I wonder if if you think about CRM and ticketing, right? The technology has gotten better, but the use case is timeless. You still need to organize your customer records. You still need case management and tickets. And I think with AI, people are so shocked by what it can do that they forget it's still just another technology.
But it is actually a good question. Like maybe that's not what you meant with the question, but you said the technology is timeless of ticketing. Now, if AI is doing all of your customer service, do you still need ticketing technology like you have it today, right? So that is the right question. I think the technological revolution this time around is different, right? This is not a small incremental step up in technology. Yeah. This is completely new, and it is revolutionary, and we shouldn't forget that.
I guess the concept of case management or ticketing will still be required. It just may be performed in a completely different way.
That's right.
Yeah. All right. Now that we're moving into other areas of the enterprise and not just AI in general, in your article, you talked a lot about AI agents proliferating throughout the enterprise. So the contact center is the obvious start. That typically is where you see a lot of ROI and very high volume. But you discussed revenue generating as well. So can you elaborate a little bit on say sales, marketing, where you see AI agents going into other departments?
Sure. I think if you look at AI capabilities as a slope, right? For years, we've had a slowly inclining slope, right? AI technology got better and better, but at a very gradual level. And then all of a sudden, its capabilities with the emergence of LLMs exploded. With that, new markets open up and new use cases open up that can actually be tackled by artificial intelligence. Now, what I mean by that is, if you are a customer that requires customer service, then you want something from that enterprise, right? You're willing to play along, even if the AI isn't really that smart. Like if you need your flight changed, or if you need to check your insurance claim or something like that, you're playing along because you want something, right? It's a pull principle. Now, the AI is, of course, it's great if it's smart, but it's also okay if it's not that smart, right? Quite frankly, if you can rebook your flight with a couple of clicks, that's also okay, right? Yep. But once you get into sales and marketing, the whole relationship with the customer changes. It's not that the customer has requested this, but now you want something from the customer. You are pushing this onto the customer, right? And once you get into that, you need AI that truly understands the customer, that can be answering in an empathetic way, right? That can not be thrown off track, right? We all remember this from the olden days of chatbots, where it was all like, sorry, I didn't get this. Sorry, I didn't get this. Imagine a bot trying to sell you a business class upgrade, and whatever you say, it says, sorry, I didn't get this. You're just going to hang up, right?
You say, sorry, you don't get the upgrade. You don't get my money.
Exactly. And so now with large language models and the conversational capabilities that large language models bring, the whole game changes, because all of a sudden, yes, we can have fully automated phone conversations where something is upsold phone, or of course also digital conversations, right? We can have conversations where it's about appointment setting. We can have conversations where it's essentially about replacing SDR services. So outbound sales efforts that pre-qualify potential customers, right? These were things that in an era before LLMs were hardly possible, because the customers are not as forgiving when it comes to sales and marketing use cases. Whereas with customer service, you could have AI that wasn't performing at such a high level. So LLMs really changed the game here and open up a completely new use case, or a completely new set of use cases.
I think the idea of them being customers being forgiving is interesting, because if you think about dealing with salespeople, even though they're humans, there's a high level of distrust in general. And so just bringing in an AI there and losing that human touch, is that actually a benefit?
It's interesting, right? The question becomes very philosophical, of course. It could be beneficial. I think there will be, in the near future, it will be difficult to tell whether it's actually human or not, right? With generative AI, we're not just talking about large language models. In generative AI, we're talking about the ability to understand humans better using speech-to-text models. We're talking about the ability to sound much more human-like, right? So we have voices where you can hardly distinguish whether it is a human or whether it's a computer speaking. Also, that has evolved dramatically just over the past year. And then going to the next step, which is generative AI-powered avatar services, where these avatar videos are generated on the fly, and it's impossible to tell whether this is a real human or not. And so, yeah, it's going to be interesting how this is perceived by the market, right?
I think that's the big unspoken or unchallenged idea, is that human-like is always better. And I think, like you said, maybe we'll finally find out where human-like is better and where it actually isn't.
Exactly, because there's still the uncanny valley, and it's getting better and better, right? So maybe we can't tell, but that's what we tell our customers, right? Don't pretend, or don't have your bots pretend that they're human. We don't think that's a good idea, right? Because also the modus of communication changes when the customer actually knows that it's a bot.
Yeah. All right, and we're gonna stick to large language models here for a minute. So right now, the assumption has been about proprietary models, right? We have a handful of big ones that I think are almost household names now. But open source models are rapidly catching up.
Yeah.
And so I'm wondering, how do you see their potential to reach parity with today's proprietary models? I think of, for example, Linux coming out, versus Windows, and now dominating the server market, despite it being open source. So how do you think that's going to impact the AI landscape, especially in terms of innovation and differentiation?
I mean, it's difficult to say, but I mean, to answer your first question, do I think that open source models will reach parity with the commercial models that exist at the moment? Definitely, right? Of course. Will open source models emerge to be the best models out there? I'm not so sure, right? Because building these models actually takes a lot of money, and it's not just about the training and the GPU cost that can probably be covered, but it's about human labor that goes into building these models as well. Now, having said that, I think large language models and modern AI technology is such a fundamental base technology that every enterprise will want, that just like with operating systems and how it happened with Linux, we will have very strong contenders in the open source space. Now, having said that, you can take Linux, which is a great server operating system for anyone who loves the command line, but it's probably not the best desktop system, right? You need either something like Windows or Mac OS, which is essentially based on Unix, which is similar to Linux, right? And so I think that commercial entities have a different way of handling these types of challenges, right? So yes, there will be, and there already are, amazing open source alternatives, but it is probably true that the commercial vendors will still have a leg up in offering something that is widely adopted across the enterprise.
To stick with the Linux example, do you think that we'll see something more like Canonical, where they take an open source base and add kind of this proprietary value added, either additional development or above all service and maintenance?
I think we're already seeing that, right? I think there are many companies out there that take open source models and offer services around those, fine-tuning services, et cetera, et cetera. And yes, I think that's just going to get more. Now, it also all depends on integration, right? And all depends on the use case. Now, for bots, maybe it's easy for us to use these open source models, right? But what about if you don't talk about customer service or sales, if you talk about your day-to-day work and integration into Microsoft Office? Are we going to use open source alternatives to Microsoft's Copilot? I don't see that happening, right? Because firstly, Copilot is relatively cheap. It's included in some Office licenses, and I don't see open source really making any inroads there, because why would you buy it, right? Or why would you apply it? So I think it really depends on the use case. And yes, new business models are emerging, and it's definitely going to be a really interesting time.
All right, and let's wrap this up with, how soon do you think LLMs are just going to be considered table stakes, like CRM, like ticketing, things like that?
I think for any enterprise that really understands what LLMs are about and understand the benefits that LLMs can bring, they should already be table stakes, right? I mean, you're obviously working for us, so you know what we say. And if you work in marketing or in sales or in development, you have to use LLMs, right? Because it just speeds up your work so much. It just adds another level of quality as well, quality control, especially in software engineering. So I think it's already table stakes. I think if your engineering organization, if your customer service organization, if your sales organization, your marketing organization is not using LLMs yet, you are falling behind already, whether you realize it or not. So I think LLMs are already table stakes.
And that actually returns very nicely to your answer on the first question, which is get started now.
That's right.
All right. Well, it was great having you. We appreciate you taking the time for us.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you.